I guess you are complimenting the process. My question is, you are complimenting it, but at the end and in between there were some allegations of fraud or ballots or papers that were misplaced. You said you were here to observe. Did you observe any irregularities?
No, from where we stood, that was not so. We had one incident where one of our observers observed the fact that there was a mix-up in the, how you call it, not the national ballots, the district, those for the district. But as in his words, it was clarified and persons were given the opportunity to continue the process.
As CVS, what can this election teach the Caribbean nation, the Caribbean region about election in COVID-19, and how can we change some things to do it better? Because you are the observers, you saw what happened in the field. What can you tell us more about how to do things a different way to prove that the elections can do or go better?
I don't know what you have in terms of resources and so on, so I can't speak to that. But from our observation, I find Suriname did extremely well. They were testing the ground, they broke ice, and they were able to show us. For example, there was the person at the door who greeted the participants, those who came out to vote. They were sanitized. We also had the fact that the booths were sanitized. They changed pencils for everybody, and that was amazing. I find that there was substantial resources in terms of getting the process organized. In terms of doing a little better, I can't say because we really don't have the experience. We might have to take away what Suriname would have put in place, and given the resources of the Caribbean in the various islands, they would be able to tweet it for their own, to suit their own country. But I really must commend Suriname for the start.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Annelies Brinkman. I'm from the Dutch press agency. 2 or 3 questions. When you did the talks with all the concerned people before the election day, did you feel that there were a lot of concerns by the people who were organizing or who were from the opposition parties that there should be fraud? That's question 1. Then you are not, when does your mission stop? Because there's still a counting situation in one of the buildings. Are you still observing, or is it finished and you're not observing this last counting? And I think you said that you didn't feel so much about concerns of fraud from the people who were electing or who were working there. Did I understand that? But did you talk to people, or so? That's a little bit strange for me because I thought there was a lot of concern about fraud.
No, I couldn't speak to the issue of fraud that you spoke about. In your third question, I didn't think that I said, maybe you misunderstood the fact that I said I spoke to fraud with on election day. However, the first question you asked, based on our meetings with the parties, persons raise concerns. They raise concerns like anybody else. Any uncertainty, if you're going into something, there are concerns, there are uncertainty. And within the environment, persons spoke to the fact that COVID was a challenge. So those concerns would have guided our observation too. And so if we go to certain divisions, or polling stations, and those did not manifest themselves, then we couldn't speak to that. So we have to have the facts so that we can speak to, I don't know if anybody else had observation, then they saw those, but from our team when we collaborated, we did not have any evidence to say that there was some issue of fraud. If there was so, we would have raised it. Okay, thank you. One of the reasons why we went to the out districts was the whole concern of the persons who raised issues in relation to fraud, and they particularly said that they thought much of it would be done in the out districts, and that is why we took the decision to go to the out districts so that we can see for ourselves. Some of it was pre-work, the whole structure, the planning and all of that, and the remainder was done on election day. Because you recognize that Suriname is a big place and our team was small, but we wanted to make sure that we have coverage enough so that when we speak, we can speak to facts and speak with authority. As we late, if you notice, we came in a little bit late. We were at one of the head in right at the sports club, right, and so we had to rush back because of that. In relation to the counting at the few stations that we were told were out, we would not have been at those areas, and so we were not participating in those countings. It was when we got there, we recognized that there were still a few areas that were out, but they would tabulate and get those in soonest.
I'm not looking for points to take away your optimism about how the elections went, but we have some confirmed facts. The police confirmed that there was a fire shooting. Fire shooting. There was a shooting at one of the power stations. I was at the station myself doing my work as a journalist, and I have on record here where the chair of the poll station announcing that the papers were not in order, there were no stamps on it. I have it right here on my recorder. And she said she had permission from the district commissioner that the papers could use, but there was some tumult about it. Not all media, not all poll stations, media were allowed to do their work freely, even though the Minister of Inside Affairs has announced publicly that we media could be around, make pictures, not to disturb the situation, but we could make a picture. But in not every case it was like that. And so there are more confirmed facts about things that happened during the election. And I wonder how come that your delegation haven't mentioned not one of these things. And yeah, I'm just concerned what this is all about.
Well, to alleviate your concerns, we were in certain districts, and from what we observed, we were there. What we observed in the areas we did our observation, the shooting didn't take place there, and we had no reports. When we checked with the persons, the parties, and so on, everybody reported that things were fine, so I can't answer to that. I can't confirm those information that you just shared.
All the 17 parties that participate, if I'm correct, participate in the elections, what were their concerns later after the elections, and what did they say about how the elections went? Because you are the observers and you can tell us more about their observations.
As I said, when we spoke with political parties on our observation day yesterday, everybody said that things were going fine. All the persons we spoke to, and we went, that was part of our conversation to get our information. And nobody complained. We had one small complaint that things were going slow, and that was it.
It's actually the same question as I tried to ask, because at this time there is a counting going on from the results of the Paramaribo district, but there's a lot of, how do you say, noise and rumors, and people are coming to there and parking and yelling. And did you know about this, that's happening right now, today? Did you hear about that? What do you think about this situation? And there are talks that maybe when they're going to bring the votes to another place, that they are going to take billiards from it, or I don't know. So I just want to know if you heard it and what you think about it.
We heard, and that, as I said earlier, that is why we were a little bit late in coming. So we went, and we were able to see for ourselves, and as a matter of fact, the sport club, the house was packed with supporters of the various parties, other observers and so on, and the boxes were in clear view of all the people, I guess, that they're there looking at their interests. So in that light, I could say that they're safe, that the allegations that were raised in relation to the boxes there are null and void. The continued counting, we could not participate in all of the counting given the size of the team and so on. So if something happened in another area where we didn't cover, we can't speak to it. It would be unfair for us to speak to something like that, and so we have to be honest in our reporting.
Yes, my name is David Commichon, the Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM. I will say a little bit about the allegations of fraud. We met pre-election, we met with virtually all of the opposition parties. We met with the anti-fraud platform, which is a coalition of a number of the opposition parties focused on the issue of fraud. We met with the national observer team that has been put together by primarily the private sector. We met with the religious leaders, a team representing the various religious faiths of Suriname. And we listened to all concerns that they raised pertaining to possible fraud, all concerns. And they had many concerns, including that the COVID-19 regulations would be used to intervene in the election process, to postpone the holding of the election, to postpone the counting of votes. They had a multiplicity of concerns, and we listened very carefully. We took note of all their concerns, and we assured them that based on what they were telling us, we would be very clear about observing as much as possible, being guided by the concerns that they raised with us. And all we can tell you is, in our observation of the election yesterday, the process was extremely transparent. There were multiple checks in the system. Suriname has a system that is based on multiple checks, including the presence in every polling station of agents of the Independent Electoral Council. The counting of the vote is extremely transparent, with party agents and even members of the public scrutinizing the ballot papers. And throughout the day, we were constantly asking agents of the OKB, the Independent Electoral Council, representatives, agents of the various political parties, how was the process going? And we got very positive reports that things were efficient, things were transparent, things were going well. So all we can tell you is, based on our very extensive examination of the process yesterday and last night, and bearing in mind that we covered some 120 polling stations in 4 different electoral districts, we did not find any evidence of electoral fraud. That is based on our observation yesterday.